then this happened. Read it and weep. Revelation 1:1-3. The revelation of Jesus the Christ, which God the Father gave unto him to shew his servants things which must shortly come to pass. And he sent and signified it by his angels unto his servant John. Notice I said angels because you just need to read Revelation and you'll know it's not one angel, it's many angels involved in the message. And John, who bore record of the word of God and of the testimony of Jesus Christ and of all the things that was presented to him. No man knows the day nor the hour, that day or hour, but the Father. True at the time when Jesus said it. Then revelation time came. Just as in any Jewish wedding, the father announced so that all the guests could be ready and prepared, and the bride must be prepared, and so on and so on. Nobody's going to be hamstringed into this. The father, when it's short time to go, gives out the necessary details. The GPS address of the house, the time, the place. So yes, no man knows the day of that day until the Father gave it, and he did. Revelation 1-3 is a continuation from the Beatitudes. We know the Beatitudes in Matthew chapter 5, when Jesus was up on a mountain and he said, blessed is this, and blessed are ye, and blessed are the other, blessed, blessed, blessed. Well, Jesus, the same Jesus, is continuing that same conversation in Revelation, because that is what revelation is. It's a revelation. It's not something to tire people. It's to make sure that everybody knows the details of the arrangements. So he says, blessed is he that readeth, and they that hear the words of this prophecy, and keep those things which are written in therein, for the time is at hand. Wow. Imagine if I was one of the disciples back then. I know exactly when Jesus died on the cross. No date problems, no calendar issues, nobody interfere with the sun, moon, or the stars. I remember, like if it were yesterday, when Jesus was crucified. And now, a couple of years before the event, we get this letter, this revelation. Let's just say, I'm just using an arbitrary date for now, that it's year AD 63. We know that one thing has to have happened, and that is the gospel must be preached to the entire world in that generation, and then the end will come. We know that it's not going to be beyond our generation. We know that the gospel had to be preached, and when we phoned up Paul and asked him in his house arrest prison in Rome, he said, guys, it was done. It was finished. So don't worry about that. Knowing the scriptures, won't you think that they would easily know that this thing had to be around AD 70? Because in every era of the scriptures, 40 years was the normative time frame with which Jesus kind of completed missions, similar missions, 40 years in the wilderness, 40 years of David's throne, 40 years of Solomon's throne, etc. So if I were a betting person, I'd be betting on 80-70 because 80-30 he died, 40 years. But would that give me the day or the hour? No, it wouldn't. It will, but it will certainly put me in the ballpark. And Revelation didn't say the day or the hour, it said it is close. And it expects those who are his and who understand how he thinks and understand his word and his ketubah, because it's the information is in there, in the scriptures, that they would figure out the rest. Unlike those scribes and Pharisees who he had to scold and told them, you all understand when the fig tree put out a certain leaf, that fruit is there and summer is near, and when rain coming and when rain not coming, but you all cannot discern the signs of the time or the hour of the time that we live in, and that the time that the anointed one was supposed to come. He scorned them for that, scolded them, for that. Because all the information is in the scriptures and they could understand everything else but that. Well, the bride would be expected to understand and to discern the time if the Father says it is at hand. Revelation 16:15, behold, I come as a thief. He's telling them, I'm coming as a thief. That is a statement within a statement, guys. Because, again, you need to look at it from a cultural perspective. Nowadays, government thieving us, bank robbing us, everybody thieving here blind in broad daylight. Back then, the thieves used to use the cover of darkness as a rule. If they come in to steal your sheep or your goat or whatever, it was at night. So when I say, behold, I come as a thief, I'm clue, clue, blink, blink. Blessed is he that watcheth and keepeth his garments, lest he walk naked and they see his shame. I'm not going to turn to it, but you could, Exodus 32:25. At the first marriage ceremony at Sinai, while the father of the groom was speaking with Moses and making the arrangements, they were down the hill, naked as they're born, dancing around a calf. Yes, naked as they're born. Go read it in Exodus 32:25. So this time he says, please don't let me come and find you naked again. Not this time. Revelation 19:9. And he said unto me, write, blessed are they which are called unto the marriage supper of the Lamb. Marriage supper, not the marriage. Blessed are they which are called to the marriage supper. Pay attention to everything. As I said just now, the supper is on the 7th day of the feast. When they come out from consummating the marriage, then is the supper. And he said unto me, these are the true sayings of God. God the Father, who had all the information and all the cards, has just delivered it to you, John. Go tell my people. Revelation 26. Blessed and holy is he that had part in the first resurrection. If there's a first resurrection, it's obvious that it is going to be another one. Otherwise, they just say the resurrection. On such, the second death hath no power, but they shall be priests of God and of his. I rather put anointed there instead of Christ to make the point. I'll explain. If we read it as, and they shall be priests of God and of Christ, and shall reign with him 1,000 years, it doesn't bear the full brunt of the essence of what is being said here. When God called his bride Israel the first time, he set up an anointed one, which was Aaron, to be the high priest, his priest over them. But this time, God set up Jesus to be the high priest over them. He anointed him personally. So it is God and his anointed high priest, and we shall reign with them. What does that mean? Everybody is of the house of Levi, pretty much, because the Levites were allowed to eat the bread of God, literally. The things that were God's, they shared in it for their physical daily diet. What the high priest ate, they could eat. They shared with it. They shared in the reign of the high priest. All of the Levites did that. All of the priests did that. So when God says that, but they shall be priests of God, it's just back to that original contract. But this time, he said he's not leaving this to nobody to run his show. Didn't call her Moses, didn't call her Aaron. He took it upon himself. He is the high priest. He is the anointed one. And everybody would be priest with him to reign for 1,000 years. Why 1,000 years? Again, I'm not going to turn to it, but it's there on screen. 1 Corinthians 15, 24 to 28. The story there is Paul making the statement that after that, death is the final straw for Christ to deal with. He has to deal with all his enemies, and death is the final enemy that he has to deal with. And when he deals with that, and he has put all enemies to bed, then he would transfer power back to the Father. Paul says he would reign until that time when he puts all his enemies under his foot. And then he would transfer the power back to the Father so that the Father will be in all and in all be in everything. So when he says that you will reign with me for 1,000 years, he meant it. They reigned with, because he was reigning until he transfers the power to the Father. Revelation 22:7. Behold, I come quickly. Blessed is he that keepeth the sayings of the prophecy of this book. That's how the letter ends. It was sent to the 7 churches in Asia. An urgent delivery, overnight delivery, FedEx, if you will, sent from the Isle of Patmos by the fastest runners, because he is coming quickly. Revelation 22:14. Blessed are they that do his commandments, that they may have the right to the tree of life and may enter in through the gates into the city. This tree of life is the tree of life, not necessarily the same one, but I'm Just saying, the tree of life is the same tree of life that was planted in the Garden of Eden by God. And it is that humans lost the right to eat from. Now, soon, it will be available for you guys again. Blessed is he who keeps the commandments and will have the right to eat of it. Where is it? Inside the city, because you have to go through the gates to get to it. Just like it had a barrier around it in Eden, and Adam and Eve couldn't cross the cherubims to go back in there. If you want to get access to it, you have to go through the gates and get access to it. And the Beatitude seemingly continues, starting back from Matthew. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom. Not those who are persecuted. They give you pressure on your work and whatever. Please. For righteousness' sake. You have examples like the apostles and the disciples, enough of that in Acts to tell us what that means. So stop crying that your father-in-law vexed with you or whatever, and that is persecution. No. Okay? For righteousness' sake, blessed are they. All these, anytime you see blessed, that is those who are going to receive the kingdom, going to enter. Romans 13, 11 to 12. And that knowing the time is now, it is high time to awake out of sleep. For now is the our salvation nearer than when we believed. The night is far spent. The day, just like Revelation said, is at hand. Let us therefore cast off the works of darkness and let us put on the armor of light. That armor of light, so that we wouldn't be found naked. Paul, who is one of those responsible for carrying the gospel to all the world, and Paul made it clear, every creature under the sun has had a taste of it, knows that once that task was completed, it's only a matter of time. But then Revelation came and told them it's right around the corner. And yet today, Christians read Matthew, read Revelation, read Paul's writings as if by some stroke of luck, he's writing to us. You know, Jesus was speaking to us. So he said, no man knows the day and the hour. He was speaking to us. How? When he sent Revelation, he said to the 7 churches, they apply it to 7 ages. He never said that. He never said that. Who gave you that job about ages nonsense? 7 churches, which are landmarks in Asia to this day, you could find it on a map, is where the message went to. And everything was current and truthful. Because you're fooling up people by telling us it is at hand. I'm coming shortly. I'm coming in this generation. I'm going to prepare a place for you. And if I go to prepare a place, I'm coming again to receive you on myself. Some of you standing here would not taste death before I come back. And all of that and much more didn't happen. God is certainly not a liar, certainly not. And he came. And so everything written happened. Therefore, one cannot even use Matthew 24:36 and say, of that day and hour, referring to our time, when he's going to come for the final time, no man knoweth but the Father. That statement doesn't even apply to his final coming. So the next step of our study is to identify the bride. We all know who the bridegroom is. There is no debate on who the bridegroom is. It is our Lord and Savior, Jesus the Christ. Where the debate is, and this is from denomination to denomination, from church to church, from religion to religion, from individual to individual, is who's the bride? Let's see if the Bible could answer that for us. And I'm sure it will, definitively. But let's see what we come up with. Who is the bride? All I see in here is a picture without heads. I don't know. I know who the handsome guy is, but I don't know who the bride is. We'll start with the Old Testament to give us a clue into the new bride. You see, the Bible is about two brides, not one, two. Isaiah 54:5, King James Version says, "For thy maker is thine husband," referring to Jerusalem. I am cutting and pasting the text, so feel free, of course, to make a note and go read the whole things for yourselves. But this is referring to Jerusalem, and he says, "For thy maker is thine husband. The Lord of hosts is his name, and thy Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel. The God of the whole earth shall he be called." Clue to who the first bride was, because her husband was the Lord of hosts, the same Lord of hosts in Daniel chapter 8, and well, anywhere in the Bible for that matter. Okay. Isaiah 62:1-7. "For Zion's sake will I not hold my peace, and for Jerusalem's sake will I not rest." Remember, we studied last week how God asks for a portion of land in Ezekiel 45 to be put aside for him, for Zion. That portion of land that the temple is built on, that is Zion, on Mount Zion, which is inside of Jerusalem, and the temple is inside of that. It's all one. So understand from that point of view. "For Zion's sake will I not hold my peace, and for Jerusalem's sake I will not rest, until the righteousness thereof go forth as brightness, and the salvation thereof as a lamp that burneth." Keep in mind the lamp that burneth for a later date. "And the Gentiles shall see thy righteousness, and all kings thy glory, and thou shalt be called by a new name, which the mouth of the Lord shall name. Thou shalt also be a crown of glory in the hand of the Lord, and a royal diadem in the hand of thy God." Notice throughout the reading, it's always going back and forth between the Father and the Son. The Father and the Son, because they are intrinsically linked in the marriage arrangements. The son is not like nowadays where a boy like a girl and he run down and he do his thing, like we saw in the engagement earlier. It's not like that. Father and son are involved, like how Samson told his father, big and strong as he was, go and make the arrangements, son, please. Jerusalem will be called by a new name. Well, God didn't get too creative with that one, did he? Because it's just called the New Jerusalem. "Thou shalt no more be termed forsaken, neither shall thy land any more be termed desolate." When Jesus was here, he said to Jerusalem then, Your house is now left unto you desolate. Daniel 9 talks about the abomination of desolation that was coming for it. Sorry, Daniel 11. The point I'm making here is that this prophecy cannot be referring to the Jerusalem on earth. Impossible. Because then Jesus would have come and canceled it out by all the things he said. He said, women, don't cry for me, you know. Them tears save them for Jerusalem, because just now it will be needed, right? So all what we read in here is referring to the new Jerusalem. But thou shalt be called Hephzibah. Hephzibah means one who is delighted, in one whom is delight. And thy land, Beulah. The word Beulah was not translated. It is the Hebrew word for married. So you shall be called the delighted married one. For the Lord delighted, the front word from Beulah, delighted in thee, and thy land shall be Beulah. Yes, Beulah. Click on it in your Strongs, you'll see it's the same word. Exact same word. So one they translated and one they didn't. Who is married? Thy land is married. But is this the old Jerusalem? No, because this one is the one that is all about the light and happiness, never to be forsaken again. The new Jerusalem is what is referred to here. For as a young man married a virgin, notice he's going to make an assessment here, a cross-reference. As a young man married a virgin, so shall, I'll read it how it is in the King James first and then go back to it. So shall thy sons marry thee. That makes absolutely no sense if you think about it. If as young men marry virgins, so young men will marry Jerusalem. And more so, it's even referring to the New Jerusalem, the whole context of the statement. I'm sorry, but I had to do the crossing and putting. The word die does not exist in the scriptures. It didn't have a word there, they put it there. So let's read it aright in context. For as a young man married a virgin, so shall my son marry thee. And as the bridegroom rejoiceth over the bride, so shall thy God, the Father, rejoice over thee. Isn't that so much more sweeter and clearer? The bridegroom, which we all have no problem with, know is the Lord, the Anointed One, and of course the father of the groom is God, says that just as how young men marry virgins, so shall my son marry you, the New Jerusalem. And as a bridegroom rejoiceth over his bride, so shall God, the Father, rejoice over thee. I have set a watchman upon thy walls, O Jerusalem, which shall never hold their peace, day nor night. Ye that make mention of the Lord, keep not silence, and give him no rest till he establish, until he make Jerusalem a praise in the earth. This earth or the new earth? Jerusalem, right now, well, they're trying to fight a little proxy war there with Palestine, and that will go on until Jesus comes. Is that the place that this is referring to? Okay, what about when Jesus came? Is that the place? Could you see anything in this aligning to the earthly Jerusalem? Or do we see it aligning to the Jerusalem that is described in Revelation? I leave you to answer that. All right? I have answered it for myself, and it's the New Jerusalem. So that's saying that the bride is the New Jerusalem. How about Jeremiah? Jeremiah 3:20-22 says, surely as a wife treacherously departed from her husband, so have ye dealt treacherously with me, O house of Israel, said the Lord. And oh gosh, you just had to read the books of Hosea, the books of Isaiah, read every book in the Old Testament, Psalms, everything, and you will see that from the day God married this woman, Israel, she has been just plain the harlot. Return, ye backsliding children, and I will heal your backslidings. Behold, we come unto thee, for thou art the Lord our God. Again, if you just read that in the King James, for thou art the Lord our God, who's the other? We, God the Father and God the Son, come unto thee, for thou belongest to the Lord our God, or thou art the Lord's our God. S apostrophe. But not thou art the Lord our God, because Jerusalem or Israel is not the Lord our God. So I'll just read it again, just in case you missed it. Return, ye backsliding children, and I will heal your backslidings. Behold, when Jesus came, he said, it's me and my Father come for all you know. It's not me alone. We come unto thee, for thou belongest to the Lord our God. Jeremiah 31:33. Behold, the days come, said the Lord, that I will make I will make a new covenant, a new ketubah with the house of Israel. That suggests that it had an old one. And with the house of Judah, not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day that I took them by the hand. Can you see it? Can you picture God just like anybody in love, boyfriend, girlfriend, holding hands? This is what it's saying. It's not took them by the hand and like dragging them like Lot's wife. No, this is a loving touch. Just as the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day that I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt, which my ketubah they broke, although I was an husband unto them. This is not David Buffon. This is King James Bible. This is God talking. Said the Lord. The Lord was a husband unto them. This is not God the Father, God the Son every time. But this shall be the covenant, the new one, that I will make with the house of Israel. Or is it with the Gentiles? Or with those, Sam said just now, those Christian Jews. Pay attention, guys. I will make with the house of Israel, after those days, said the Lord, I will put my law in their inward parts and write it in their hearts, and will be their God, and they shall be my people. Okay, so out with the old, in with the new. So far, the Bible is telling us that the bride of Christ was Israel, was Jerusalem. It's not, up high in the sky. It's not up for debate. The scripture said, I am your husband, and you doing all kinds of things to me. And you read the book of Hosea, he said, well, look, I will show you what all you're doing me visually through poor Hosea. Go marry a whore, he says, and your life will be Israel to me. But then he comes and with this new covenant, new contract, ready to start fresh, right? And so we take it from there. Galatians 4, 25 to 28 and 31. Paul speaking to the Galatians says, for this Hagar, which is the name of Sarah's servant who became concubine to Abraham in order for them to have a child. That's Hagar. But anyway, for this Hagar is Mount Sinai in Arabia, and answered to Jerusalem, which now is, and is in bondage with her children. But Jerusalem, which is above, is free, which is the mother of us all. Paul is saying, Hagar, the one who made Ishmael, that is the bondage woman. That is the contract at Sinai. We are not in bondage with her children. We are free because we belong to the new Jerusalem. He doesn't have the word new there, but it's obvious it's the one above. And this tells us that the new Jerusalem was in existence, and Paul knew of its existence. Hint, hint, Revelation or Isaiah. Either which way, he's referring to the new one and saying, that's our mom. For it is written, rejoice thou barren that bearest not. Break forth and cry, thou that travailest not. For the desolate had many more children than she which had an husband. Now we, brethren, as Isaac was, are the children of promise. So then, brethren, we are not the children of the bondwoman, but of the free. Here, Paul is making it very clear. 2 Jerusalems, one hosting all of those who rejected Christ. This is his day, his time, speaking to Galatian people which lived and existed around him. And the other one, which was the mother of them all, who had accepted Christ. We are her children. And as they are her children, then they obviously are the husband's children also, because Jerusalem is the bride. Isaiah 54, 1-5 is where he was quoting from. Sing, O barren, thou that didst not bear. Break forth into singing and cry aloud, thou that didst not travail with child. For more are the children of the desolate than the children of the married wife, said the Lord. You know what that just told us there, guys? We always thinking, or somehow we get the impression, at least I do, so I don't speak for myself, that we are in the minority. But this is saying something different. He says, more are the children of the desolate. The desolate is the one that Jesus came, the new bride, the one that represented Sarah, who was barren. More are her children than the old wife, the first one, Hagar. And you know, the funny thing is that when I'm looking at the scriptures again and reading, and I'm seeing multitudes following the Lord, multitudes. Every time you see, say a parable, and multitudes were following him. Multitudes. Yes. So this is accurate. More are the children of the desolate than that old married whore. For thy maker is thine husband. The Lord of hosts is his name, and the Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel, the God of the whole earth shall he be called. So Paul just basically quoted from Isaiah 54:1. And I've added the 5 because that's quoted later down. And so, guys, it is clear who the bride is. So next phase, will the real bride please stand up? Today, if you go to a church or listen to any Christian radio station or YouTube or wherever, Google it, whatever, Tom, Dick, Harry, and his neighbor all vying to be the bride. The common term is the church is the bride of Christ. Well, if the church is the bride, then which one? Pray tell, because every church have its own doctrine, all of them fighting against each other. And so if the church is the bride, you need to clarify. Is it the mother church, Catholic Church? Is it her offspring, Protestants? And if so, which one of the offspring will be this bride? Or is it none of the above? Let's go. Will the real bride please stand up? John 14:2-3 says, in my Father's house, there are many mansions. And if it were not so, I would have told you, I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go to prepare a place, I will come again and receive you unto myself, that where I am, there ye may be also. As indicated earlier, this was a common standard statement made by the groom to his bride. And note the word bride. They are married. From the time the arrangements are made, they are considered married. This was a common statement of the day made to the bride and her family, the promise that the groom is going to prepare a place and come again to receive her, to finish what they started. So nothing strange or out of place in when Jesus said it, since everything he's dealing with is this marriage ceremony. And if he said that, won't you think he would have kept that promise, him of all people? Of course, Revelation 14:1-4. And I looked, and lo, a lamb stood, 1 and 4, sorry. And I looked, and lo, a lamb stood on Mount Zion. You could put an S if you want, it's Zion. This is what John is seeing. You think that he was seeing Zion in the Israel, like on earth, or was he seeing a new Mount Zion in heaven in the vision, as Isaiah indicated, that we read earlier in Isaiah 54. That's the Zion that he's seeing. There's a whole lot of people calling themselves Zionists today, based on texts like this. Oh, they're going back to Zion. Sorry for them, but anyway. And with him, 144,000 having his father's name written in their foreheads. It come like when we get married and your wife takes on your name. This is what is happening here. These are they which were not defiled with woman, for they are virgins. These are they which follow the Lamb wheresoever he goeth. It said in the text before, I will come again and receive you unto myself, that where I am, there ye may be also. These are they which follow the Lamb wheresoever he goes. They were redeemed, purchased, redeemed from among men. Now that word purchase in our wedding, you may find it a little odd, but as I said, I did put a Google page which details the ancient Jewish wedding, and in it you'll find a lot more details than we covered today, if you have the time to read it. It's lengthy, but it's interesting, all right? And it refers to the Jewish bride of the day as a purchase, as chattel, not cattle, C-H-A, as chattel. She was a possession. Now, women today would be all up in arms. I'm glad that everybody's muted because I might get blown away. But that is what they were. That's how they were recognized at that time. From the time a parent had a girl child, he don't know, yeah, look for a sale, basically. Right? Because that was all he was going to get for her. It's whatever she could bring. And so in that, thinking in that essence, you see here when you read, these were redeemed, is paid for, purchased from among men, being the first fruits unto God and the Lamb. God's daughter-in-law, the Lamb's bride. Revelation 19:7-9 says, let us be glad and rejoice and give honor to him, for the marriage of the Lamb is come. Note, not marriage supper. For the marriage of the Lamb is come. This is in Revelation 19. Please take a note of it because it will come in important as we clear up this area. And his wife had made herself ready. And to her was granted that she should be arrayed in fine linen, clean and white, for the fine linen is the righteousness of the saints. Keep that in mind. And he said unto me, write. This is the angel speaking to John. Write this, John. Blessed, one of the Beatitudes again. Blessed are they which are called unto the marriage supper. Just now there it said, rejoice and give honor to him, for the marriage is come. And now we see, blessed are they which are called to the marriage supper. Two different occasions. Understand, the marriage starts off like a whole year in advance, and that marriage consummates with them in the room, but only after the seventh or on the seventh day, when they come out, is what is called the marriage supper after the consummation of the marriage. And he said unto me, these are the true sayings of God. So in these verses here, we have both the married and the guests who are invited to be part of the marriage supper. I shudder to say reception because instantly we'll think Western type thinking. And that's not what's going on here. The whole festivity is the reception, or but it's part of the wedding, but the supper happens on the seventh day. So, if the church today is the bride, then that food, real sour, but the wine is extraordinary. Why do I say this? Because Revelation 19, if it's referring to our time, the wedding had take place yet. Since then the invitation went out, then that food is good again, even if it didn't happen. However, you know, wine gets finer with age. So I'll say the wine will be tops, yeah, but the food won't be, don't eat the food. But that is a if the church is the bride. So let's see, let's read on. Luke 14, 14 to 17, 20 to 24. And thou shalt be blessed, for they cannot recompense thee, for thou shalt be recompensed at the resurrection of the just. The first resurrection is the resurrection of the just. right? And Jesus is telling them, let me just bring it into context here. He was at a festival, at a dinner party, and he had just told them that, listen, guys, when you see you go to a party, don't be, trying to get the head seat and that kind of thing. And then he also told told them that if you are hosting one, call the blind and the lame and the people who don't have food and thing to your receptions, because that way you will be rewarded in the resurrection of the just. And I continue from verse 15. And when one of them that sat at meat with him heard these things, he said unto him, blessed is he that shall eat bread in the kingdom of God. That's at the supper. He's not just talking in general. That's at the wedding marriage supper. Then said he unto him, a certain man had made a great supper and bade many people. When they read this text, you're thinking, I'm giving you a spoiler one time, we will get the text right, but I'm giving it early. They think that this is just a great dinner. It's not. It's a wedding feast. And we'll get clarification and confirmation shortly. It is a wedding feast. So a certain man made a great supper, is a wedding feast, and bade many. And his servant at the supper time, and sent his servant, at the supper time to say to them that were bidden. The word bidden there is invited. Click on it in your Strongs, check it out. It's a nicer, more clearer word would be invited. So at the supper time, at the time when it was the time for it to happen, those that were invited were told to come. Pause. You see what's going on there? It's a marriage supper. The people who were told or invited weren't just spur the moment, hey, I have a big a grand wedding boy, will you come now? That's not what the picture being painted here. These people were invited guests, meaning that they know and expected shortly, my partner, my friend, the elder in the village, whatever, is going to have a marriage supper. They expected, they were invited. It's not a spring of the moment thing. But the day when it's happening now, and it's time now, he's saying, all right, guys, come. The wedding that you're expecting, come, please come. For all things are now ready. And the Lord said unto the servant, go out into the highways. Sorry, I forgot that I left out the verses there, so I'm going to leave for clarification. So all things are ready. And what happened? It was, I just married a woman and I can't come. I now buy 2 ox there and I had to break them in. All kind of the lamest excuses on the planet was given by people who were given direct invites to this wedding supper. So now, verse 23, after the king hears this, he says, and the Lord said unto the servant, go out into the highways and hedges and compel. Notice the word compel as opposed to bidden or bide or invite. Go into the highways and hedges and compel them to come in, that my house may be filled. For I say unto you, that none of those men which were invited, bidden, shall taste my supper. The invited guests wouldn't even taste it, but go and compel as many people as you can to come so that the feast will be full of people. Daniel 7:13-14 says, I saw in the night vision, and behold, one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven and came to the Ancient of Days, and they brought him near before him. And there was given him dominion, glory, and a kingdom. And all people, nations, languages should serve him. His dominion is everlasting, which shall not pass away, and his kingdom one that shall not be destroyed. When does this take place? Daniel 7, when God went to the ancient, God sat on his throne and Jesus was presented before him and received his kingdom. But it ain't that hard. Just follow it in Revelation from about verse 4, chapter 4, sorry. The throne room is set. The Lamb breaks the seals of the ketubah, and two things happen. A divorce of the old wife, and not just divorce, literally destruction of the old wife, it's continue to read Revelation, and the new contract, a new wife being wedded. That's when this happens. This is not the end of the world, folks. Sorry. Revelation has the account of this. Daniel 7:17 to 18 confirms that, because the angel is the only one who could tell us interpretations. And this is the interpretation given by the angel. These great beasts, which are four kings, which shall arise out of the earth. But the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom and possess it, the kingdom forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. In the days of the fourth kingdom, Daniel chapter 2 says, the God of heaven will set up his kingdom. In Daniel chapter 7, in the days of the fourth kingdom, the fourth beast, the saints inherit the new kingdom that was set up in Daniel chapter 2. We still waiting for it? Have fun. It's gone. Past tense. Just as the Jews missed Jesus, the Christians miss the kingdom. Revelation 21, 2, 9 to 12. So verse 2 and 9 to 12. And I, John, saw the holy city, the new Jerusalem, coming down from God out of heaven. Coming down from where? From God, God the Father. He's involved in the whole thing. Prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. Now, that doesn't mean that the New Jerusalem is the bride. It says prepare as. So in other words, that glorious apparel and so on that they used to put on, she looking like that, man. She looking the part. And there came unto me one of the seven angels, which had the seven vials full of the seven last plagues, and talked with me, saying, come hither, I will shew thee the bride, the Lamb's wife. Open eyes, open ears, everybody, because here it comes. And he carried me away in the spirit of the great and high, in the spirit, to a great and high mountain, and shewed me the great city, the same holy city that he just saw, showed me the new Jerusalem descending out of heaven from God. Not only is she prepared as a bride and adorned as, she is the bride. Having the glory of God, and her light was like unto a stone most precious, even like a jasper stone, clear as crystal, and as a wall, and high, and had 12 gates, and the gates were 12 angels, and the names written thereon, which are the names of the 12 tribes of the children of Israel. Again, sealing that this has nothing to do with Gentiles. The bride of Christ have 12 gates, just as Israel had with the setup with from the tabernacle in the wilderness, how they surrounded it, the same way is the New Jerusalem setup. 12 gates, and each one have the name of the tribe of Israel. And what did we have earlier on in chapter 7? The 144,000, 12 from each tribe, and call out the tribes by name. We know one didn't make it, that is Dan. So don't expect Dan to be on one of the gates either. That gate was theirs. And so too is the setup in the New Jerusalem. When they were leaving, they left. When they were packing up, they left in order. When they were coming in, they came in order. And the New Jerusalem had the same settings. If I put the rest of the text, it will continue to say that the foundations are built on the 12 apostles. Well, not built on them, but each one represents the 12 apostles' name. Right? Where does Gentiles get into that picture? None, nowhere, cannot fit, nowhere in that picture. It's all Israel, just as it said in Isaiah, and just as it said here now. The New Jerusalem, the bride of the Anointed One. Okay, David, so the Lord will marry a city boy, like stone, and even though it's precious stone, really? Of course not. It's not. It wasn't that wasn't the case for the old one either. All the talk he talked about Jerusalem and Mount Zion is my bride and I am your husband. Was he talking about the rocks? Or was he talking about the people who dwelt there, the people of the land? It's always about the people. So the New Jerusalem represents in all her glory the people, because it said the white robes and the shining lights represent the righteousness of the saints, those who became part of that. The 144,000, they are the New Jerusalem. They form the New Jerusalem, put it that way. The city is built for them. So while he says, come see it, and he sees the building and the walls and he measures it up and all that, it's all about the inhabitants. It's not about a physical brick or stone. It's about the inhabitants, which represent the righteousness of that city. But what if we flip the script?